What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Welcome, in fact, to the award-winning monthly comic book review. That's right. Tonight, we're going to be talking about our favorite comic books of September 2024. There may be some slight spoilers throughout tonight's conversation, but nothing super big that you got to go ahead and dip out. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. We got a great panel lined up. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups. Let's bring in 9-panel grid. It's my man, Easy Eric. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, dude, thank you so much for being here. And we've had this next homie on before for one of these shows, but it's been a while. I haven't seen him in a while. I got to meet him in person. We got to fly to the moon, basically, together this last February. But everybody, give a mighty, warm, hearty station to Sleepy Reader 666.
Hey. I'm looking forward to doing it again this year. Are you going to go to Orlando again?
Oh yeah. I always want to go to MegaCon just to see John and Brittany, and if you're there, then that's even more of a bonus. And we could do the slingshot. Let's see if we could do it like, I don't know, 10 times in a row. You think they'll let us do that?
We could try.
I'm just staying away from those swings, though, man. You can go on there with Bueller if you want to, but those swings are too much for me.
I promised John I would do it with him since he couldn't fit into the slingshot one.
I felt so bad for him. All right, Stu's going to be joining us later on, but the sun just set, so he's going to be coming back out a little bit soon. Right? All right, without much further ado, let's kick it off. Eric, why don't you tell us, out of every crappy comic that came out in September, what's your pick of the month?
Oh, come on. We've had, I think the high end was pretty darn high this month here. And I'm going to go against the instinct for a certain book here, but I will go ahead and talk about Ultimates here, number 4. I thought for a bit, first of all, let's start off with saying, like, we're starting with a big 2 book, which is freaking wild. We never do that.
Starting with a Marvel book, right?
A Marvel book on top of that too. The Ultimates absolutely blew me away. And I think it answered a lot of the questions that I wanted from it, because I've been totally intrigued and I've been totally excited by the story that Dennis Camp has been telling. But my knock on it has always been the art. And it's never been that it's bad, but it doesn't fit in with the Ultimate Universe necessarily. And I feel like it isn't to the high level that like people like Stefano Caselli are doing on Ultimate Black Panther. But man, when you got Noto on this issue, it absolutely soared. I loved what they were doing with this. And considering that the concept of the issue was all basically speaking about fourth dimensional thinking and fourth dimensional solutions, the way that they lay out the issue where the top row of every single panel is taking place in the past. And then we have something in the more recent past. And then, and potentially the future and all the solutions and all the ways that things could be playing out within the Ultimate Universe, and specifically for Reed and how he's looking to, I don't know, make things a little bit more like the 616. I love this issue, and I think that this has been probably the most exciting thing that the Ultimate line altogether has done so far.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Ultimates right now. Like, first of all, Dennis Camp is a fantastic writer. Been following his career since Maxwell's Demons, which is very, very early in his career. I think 20th Century Men is a fantastic book that he did.
So good.
And you looking at 20th Century Men, also, what's the book called? Agent of World, phenomenal, especially with Philip Bertukins on the artwork. But you can tell through just 20th Century Men alone that Dennis Camp is a huge Rick Veitch fan, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what it is, but there's a Rick Veitch comic, maybe Alan Moore too, that does this thing where you can read it like horizontally, or you can read any panels and any numbers or any order, and it mimics that. This book is kind of mimicking that in a simpler way for Marvel fans. But like you were saying, dude, where there's each time period on each of the 4 tiers, and you can read it just straight up, like you could just read the top panels and get a good
and you get a complete story.
Exactly. And the way that they actually layer upon each other when you're reading it page by page blows me away. I think the Ultimate books, they started strong. They're starting to wane a little bit in interest with a lot of people, but the Ultimates, to me, it's maintaining this high quality and this innovative quality that Dennis Camp likes to do. Dennis, out of anything that he's trying to do in comics, he's trying to innovate. He's trying to stand on the shoulders of the giants that came before him and continue to push the medium forward. And I could not be prouder of my homie for having the biggest book of his career and just slaying it right now. Plus, a great issue involving Reed Richards as Dr. Doom, how he winds up adopting the identity of Dr. Doom. The one thing, though, is when they announced that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be playing Dr. Doom in the MCU, Dennis was very quick to come out there and be like, if you want to know how that can make sense, make sure you read Ultimates #4. And I'm like, dude, this idea is way too clever and subtle for the MCU to use. So I don't know what we're trying to get out there, but I guess the idea that even Reed Richards can be corrupted, right? And the way that it's done by himself, the maker, I loved it. I thought it was absolutely great. Damien, are you reading this one?
I obviously am making a mistake with my automatically not buying any Marvel here.
You're mostly really okay, though. You're mostly okay.
Yeah, you're mostly okay.
I do have Marvel Unlimited, so I can read it if I hear it's good. So I guess I will.
Yeah, just use like 6 months from now, you'll be able to check it out.
3 months now. 3 months.
Three? Oh, nice. Oh, man.
But
any final thoughts on Ultimates?
Just that it's the most. Damien, if you're gonna read anything Marvel, I think that honestly is probably the most worthwhile Marvel book that's coming out right now.
Right, and the art matches Dennis's scripting abilities.
Nodo's does.
Oh, Nodo's the artist. Okay,
yeah. On this issue, hopefully he does more. I'm just gonna keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, who did the first 3 issues?
Juan Frigeri.
Yeah, and it's not bad, but it's like your typical Marvel art. And Dennis is doing some interesting things with Ultimates, with like the issue with America, where they introduce America Chavez, right?
That was
and he's
really
like
cool.
Playing with the idea of what America is, and all like Dennis is really, and Jonathan Hickman handpicked apparently the people that were doing these books. And Dennis Camp has just been one of my favorite ever since I first read Maxwell's Demons. I think he's just such a really, really intelligent writer. And I can't believe Marvel got a hold of him. So hopefully they won't mess it up and we'll be able to keep him on the Marvel book, right?
Dude, I was about to say, Jonathan Hickman also handpicked all the people for Krakoa too. And that was about a 50-50 split. So
yeah, that's true. Because very quickly Marvel was like, you know what, Jonathan, screw you. We know what's going on here, right? We're just gonna.
Yeah. There's something about the Marvel editorial process that takes good writers and makes them bad most of the time. Like I'll follow someone from DC over to Marvel and suddenly they're not so good, or definitely when they come from indies to Marvel.
A very popular writer, I won't name him right now, but y'all pretty much know who I'm talking about. A very popular writer who is a homie of mine was brought over to Marvel and did some symbiote related books that I remember being like very confused. Like, why is this book not really good? Talking to that dude, I found out why. And it's usually, it's editorial. It's like, they decide, oh, this is the direction the book we should go. This dude told me his first script for a book. I'm not going to name the book, so I don't want to here, but the book rhymes with the word Marnage. But like his first script for that book got turned in, and when he saw the final like issue, there were scenes that he didn't write. There were like characters he didn't introduce, and he was like, at that point, was like, okay, I'm done.
I didn't realize that you and Tom DeFalco were so close.
Oh, I love Tom DeFalco. I really did. I did a panel with him a couple years ago. He wrote. First of all, he's the co-creator. One of my favorite Marvel characters, Night Thrasher, Tom DeFalco. Also, he did a really extended run on Fantastic Four with Paul Ryan that I absolutely treasure and adore. Let's just call that guy RV. That's a good way so that we don't know who we're talking about there. Heroes for Hire is enjoying the Ultimates. What's up, Bueller? We see Bueller up in there.
It seems like Jonathan Hickman has the magic power not to let them get to him. So maybe he can do an umbrella over Dennis.
Maybe, and then you read a book like Aliens versus Avengers, and you're like, Hickman did that? Or you read
maybe that's him paying the price.
This bullshit right here, and you're like, what's going on? Like, why are we getting Hickman to do? Well, I don't want
to. I got words about that book. This is the best comics of September.
Yeah, but we can rant a little bit if we want to, but let's start with the positive. So, Damien, thank you so much for being here. Love the shirt. Love the shirt. What's one of your favorites of the month?
I think my ultimate favorite was Hate #3. Hate Revisited #3, and it's it's so much more than it looks like. You know, as you read it, it stays silly humor, but there's all these layers to it and all this humanity to it at the same time. And it's a perfect melding of the art style and the writing too. So I'm just loving Hate. And I never read Hate. I'm loving Hate Revisited. So I've got to hunt down Hate, I guess.
Oh yeah. You totally owe it to yourself. Peter Bag's Hate was one of my favorite books when I was getting into the 90s black and white, like alternative underground comics. It was like Daniel Clowes and Pete Bag. Those were the names that I always was hearing. And Hate is amazing. Fantagraphics has a really great, like 3-volume hardcover slipcase set where you can get the whole thing together. I would also recommend, what's the book he did before that? Was it Neat
Stuff? I have read.
Yeah.
Neat Stuff I caught off the stands, but I somehow missed Hate.
Oh man, I think you'd like Hate. And what I like, so I'm really excited to hear that you like this book, because I was wondering how it would read to somebody who's not familiar with Hate, because they're Pete's like giving us like things that we never saw in the original Hate.
Right.
And he's updating it. So we're also seeing those characters live.
You can totally read it with these characters being new to you. You pick up on the characters and the situations. If there's stuff missing, you don't know it, you don't feel it. I think you could even, just start with issue 3 if you wanted to, although I read 1, 2, and 3 all together. And the sense of humor builds up, but the actual storyline is contained, in there's a bunch of little short stories, in fact. But they neatly hook up now I forgot the name of his friend who's really crazy. Stinky, who was shot.
Oh yeah. and when you find out, when you read the book, you're like, oh man, Stinky's dead. And then you find out what happened. You're just like, oh man, is 3 the one where he meets his mother?
I think so. Yeah. And then there's more, Stinky still shows up in more stories because we can flash back throughout time. And at first, Stinky seems like just a cartoon character. But after reading a few different Stinky stories, I feel like, yeah, I've had friends kind of like that, not exactly like Stinky, but along those lines. And so everything in it rings true. And I love that feeling of it being fun, but feeling like a slice of life at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, you reading Hate Revisited?
No, I missed out on this one, and I'm kicking myself because I was just telling Damien backstage too. I was watching his 33 issue video and I was taking notes on so many, and I'm like, oh God, man, he's going to bring up so many books that I have no idea what's going on in.
Damien deserves his flowers. I've been talking about Hate for a while now, Eric, just so you know. Okay.
Yeah. And I should say that you talked about Hate gave me the confidence to pick it up, even though I hadn't read the original.
Aw.
Something you said made me realize, I'm going to enjoy it. If Robbie's enjoying it this much, I'm going to enjoy it. And so I gave it a try.
Oh, that's awesome. I think the only book
always listen to Robbie.
Well, unless I'm talking about Transformers, I think Transformers wasn't quite your cup of tea there. But
I still have to read more of that.
I read my Transformers back here. Hold on.
Another thing I really love about Hate is that Peter Bag is replicating kind of his older style when he does the flashback stories where it's all like black and white and cross-hatched and stuff. And then the current modern day stories, they're a little bit cleaner with the line work and colored.
Right. And I guess because he's got the color, he doesn't need all the hatching.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still very noticeably the same artist. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Buddy is such an interesting character. And I know plenty of people like this. And if you knew anybody, especially in like, say like the grunge, like, or punk rock or garage rock scene back in the day, to see what happens to them 30 years later, it's very accurate.
In one of the issues, there's a scene where people are complaining that Buddy and his friends have moved to Seattle and are ruining the grunge scene already. And that's in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And living in Portland, I constantly have this feeling of new people coming and ruining the scene.
Nice.
But I also love, one more thought. I also love the feeling that he shows how even when you get older, you're still the same person, right? You still have all the same flaws and weaknesses, but it's just slightly different because you're older. Anyway, it's a really amazing comic.
Man, I'm glad you said Hate. I have to find it on my list so I can mark it out so I don't use it. All right. for me, my pick of the month is going to be Feral issue number 6. And I'm not just all up on Tony Fleece because he's coming to visit my shop as part of his Feral World Tour, which I'm very excited about. Everybody, the Deep Comics and Games in Huntsville, Alabama, October 21st. Join us. We have Tone Rodriguez and Tony Fleece here to be signing copies of Feral, Stray Bullets, whatever you want. I cannot wait to talk to Tone about Violent Messiahs. Tony told me that not a lot of people bring that up to Tone because it's kind of a forgotten book, but that was something that I really, really liked back in the day. But man, Feral's great. First of all, it's a follow-up to Stray Dogs, right? Which it's like a zombie story, but with cats, right? So there's this like, what is it? It's like a rabies outbreak that's happening, but it's treated like a zombie film, right? And we got the first arc. It introduces the characters, and it was great, and it was cool. But this issue, oh my goodness. So one of the cats at the end of the first arc, he gets bitten and he starts turning. And this whole issue is from his perspective, and you're seeing his thoughts in his head as he's turning and how he just wants to get back to basically his siblings. I don't think they're really related, but you know, the cats that he grew up with, the cats that he's familiar with, and he just wants to be back with them, close with them. But we see the tragedy as he's turning, and we know that that is what's going to bring him back into that group. And he's like a zombie now. And it was absolutely devastating to me, y'all. It like had me tearing up as I was reading it. It was a very quick read. But man, Feral has been amazing. And I remember having Tony on the show not too long ago. And he said what he was really excited about with Feral was that Stray Dogs was like a one and done 5-issue series. That's it. This is an ongoing series. And he's like, I'm loving being able to play with the ongoing series. And it's given me a lot of opportunities to be innovative or to stretch out things or really have things have more of an impact, right? Without having to fit it into a tight structure. And this issue is a perfect example why this one broke my heart, y'all. And there's a lot of books out there that use animals nowadays. There's a lot of books out there that will use emotional manipulation of your love of animals to try to get you to feel something. That's not necessarily what's going on here, man. Like if this doesn't have to be cats. Just the idea of seeing the perspective of an animal or a human, we're all animals, right? As they're turning. And the only thought they have is, I'm cold, I'm alone, I want to be safe, I want to go back to the people that I know I have comfort and security with, and then knowing the tragedy that's going to come from that. Plus that barbarian homage for the horror cover. Freaking love it. Eric, what do you think about Feral?
I think I'm missing out now because I skipped out on this series. I have read a lot of other Tony's work though, and I like the fact that in everything that I've read so far, he writes for the issue and not necessarily for the trade. So like you're always satisfied with a cliffhanger kind of ending. Is that what I'm taking away from what you're saying here with kind of what's all leading to happen as he goes back to the pack? Then it just kind of leaves you off for the next issue to pick up where the tragedy is going to happen. It's
a little bit of an intermission issue, right? So Patch, I think, is, you know, he's one of the main characters in the first arc, and he's one of the, in every zombie story, there's somebody who gets bit, and like a jackass, they hide it, right? Yeah. Like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, right. It's one of those tropes. And then at the end of the first arc, they start noticing that Patch is changing, and Patch gets separated from the group. And this is the story of him, like slowly turning, and then. Spoilers, but by the end of the issue, he's caught back up with them, and he's in. The sad thing is that this cat just wants comfort, just wants to be back with those that he knows and loves. He wants comfort and security, but we know he's just going to just wreck that group. There have already been shocking moments in this, and y'all, like the zombie story has been done to death. Right. And I remember there was a novel time back like 20 years ago where I was like, man, if only we had more zombie fiction in the world, right? If only Romero was able to do more movies and people really like did that. And then it got overdone, and then the Walking Dead and the show and all that stuff. And then now at the point I'm like, oh, is it zombies? Skip, pass. I'm done. Like you can't really do anything new with zombies to impress me. But then recently this year, I finally watched Train to Busan, which that was a great take on zombie fiction. It made me kind of feel the same way I did when 28 Days Later first came out. But Tony's nailing it here. And it's not just because they're cute cats. And that's the other thing about the art is Trish is doing all of the cats. Tone is doing everything else. So it gives you this like Don Bluth aesthetic where you have these like very cartoony figures in the foreground, but very detailed and rich and textured colored backgrounds. And it makes it feel like Don Bluth or like classic Disney animation. Absolutely a fantastic book. Sleepy, you reading this one?
No, but Wednesday, when I was in my second of my 3 shops that I went to, they had a sign up saying a good jumping on point. So I picked up this issue of Feral and read about 8 pages and didn't understand anything. It was not a good jumping on point.
Yeah, I love it.
And I had to hurry up and read the other issues I had for this show. So I'll go back to it and give it a try, but I think it's not a good jumping on point, perhaps.
No, it's not, because it's a very quick read, right? It's very briskly paced, and it doesn't anchor you in, but if you already know what's going on, it just adds an impact to me. So did you go back and did you read 1 through 5?
No. So I took them at their word that this was a jumping on point, and I just picked up the issue on Wednesday, and last night I picked it up and started reading and said, okay, I'll read that later. But I have, it's only since what's it called? The one he's doing with Tim Seeley that I became aware of Fleece. So now I want to read anything he writes. So I will go back and look
Local Man
for both those series. Local Man, right.
Yeah,
and I really like
Uncanny
his
Valley is a really good one. That he's doing right now. Uncanny Valley is a really good one.
Yes, I really like Uncanny Valley is the other one I've sampled. So I want to read more by him. So I'll definitely check this out.
Heck yeah. Also, he's doing a really great job with Dynamite's Army of Darkness Forever right now.
I've never even seen that in the stores. I hear you mention it. I've got to dig it up somewhere.
Man, for somebody who lives in a town with like a plethora of comic shops, I always hear everybody in Portland talk about how you can't find anything, and it's crazy.
We should just all move to Huntsville. It's much better there.
I mean, I do try to carry everything. Right. Everything. Sometimes I wind up buying books that we'd never sell, but I didn't get a hold of that one at all. That's off my radar, man.
You did that on purpose, man. I know you did that on purpose.
I had this lurking in the background.
All right, round 1. I think that's the quickest we've ever gotten through a round. 24 minutes. Kidding. That's really good. Really, we're the professionals here tonight, y'all. We're the professionals. That's what's going on. Eric, let's kick off round 2. We may even get a third round in. It depends on what happens when Stu gets in.
It's gonna derail everything.
He's gonna derail everything, man. Just shit on everything and just start talking about Harley Quinn or something like that. I don't know.
Oh my god.
What about you, Eric? What's another pick?
All right. I'm gonna go with one that actually just came out here, and I had the pleasure of being able to kind of read 2 issues pretty quickly because of some printing errors. But I want to talk about Helena Windhorn number 5 specifically. Again, because of the printer errors, my shop held back the copies of number 4 until they got the pristine, the nice copies back in, right? So I got to read these almost back to back. And man, I never thought that I would actually wait in anticipation for a Tom King book this way, but I do. Like anytime I know this is coming down the pipeline in a couple of weeks, I just sit there, it's like waiting for it. It's so good. Like the story that they're telling in this and how they're telling it between what's happening in the future with the oats and the ownership and the rights and all these things that are happening with the writer of these novels and this mythology, and the way that they play with what's happening with Helen and her grandfather and going into this fantastical world. And this issue specifically, the heartbreaking nature of Helen not being able to go back there because her grandfather is being too overbearing and being too worried about her safety after something happens, and kind of like laying the seeds of the mystery behind maybe what happened to Helen's father as well. It's just a beautiful issue, and the artwork holds that same regard, like that same high standard. Like it's some of the most beautiful artwork that is in comics in 2024, if not on a grander scope. But it's just beautiful on every single thing about this book. Basically, the artwork, the words, the colors. Mateus Lopes is on the colors. It just all works pitch perfectly. And again, if you had the benefit of reading 4 and 5 really quickly too, I don't know if that maybe colored my opinion of it. I think it was going to be a really great issue otherwise, but man, it was just like, it was astounding being able to read those back to back. So Helena Windhorn.
Sleepy, I know you got some thoughts.
I definitely like it. I don't have the passion for it that Eric has. I thought that there was the sort of final scene in the river where she's telling him off while he's fighting a monster. I thought that was very powerful and very well done. It's one of those moments where, oh yeah, I really like Tom King's writing. And I like Tom King's writing in general in Helena Windhorn. I guess it's a really interesting book, but I don't connect with it as emotionally as maybe I'm supposed to. I don't know why. And I don't know, like, is there just one more issue left? I don't know where this is headed. It could go in any direction, I guess, but it feels like it has to end pretty soon.
That's what I saw. We only have one other issue solicited so far.
Yeah.
Usually his stuff is like 6 to 12 or 8 or whatever. I don't like, if this is 6 issues, they got a lot to wrap up in one issue, right?
They do.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to have a lot of unanswered questions because it's only what the governess knows, right? We can't know anything she doesn't know. And whether the framing device of how the tapes that are recording of her travel along, if that's going to add something to the story, I don't know yet. So I'm kind of holding off on what my opinion really is of this in terms of how it wraps up. And I've seen Tom King belly flop terribly in wrap-ups and do brilliantly in wrap-ups. So who knows?
Don't put that evil on me. Come on.
But no, it's definitely, always one of my top books every month. So I think it's a great choice.
I love Helena Windhorn. I think I said in my review this week that so far, this is my favorite Tom King book. I think this is the highlight of his career, right? And he started off pretty strong with books like his Omega Men book was really, really good. His Mr. Miracle book was really good. His Vision series with Walta was amazing over at Marvel. But then there hit a point, and I think me and Damien had this conversation in Orlando, that he was given Batman way too early in his career.
Yes, I think Batman kind of ruined him.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of, before Helena Windhorn came out, I was shitting on Tom King every month here on the monthly comic book review. You remember? I mean, it started getting contentious sometimes between me and Carrie over that stuff, right? And then when he starts his Wonder Woman run and he's like, Wonder Woman's never had her definitive run, her Dark Knight Returns, and I'm going to give that to her. And this just turned me off. And then I went to MegaCon and I met him, and I remember him looking at me and I was like, hey man, I watched your panel and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, so do you hate me anymore now? And I was like, oh man, now I kind of feel bad, right? But had a great conversation with him. It was an interesting panel. If you see Tom King in person and watch how he interacts with people, watch how he talks, a lot of some of the problems of his books, like for instance, Jenny Sparks. And I know in your latest video, Damien, you mentioned this, where everybody's just cursing for no reason. And first of all, Jenny Sparks is a DC Black Label book. You ain't got to censor that. So why are we censoring?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. And they do it in the Penguin book sometimes. But his Penguin book became one of my favorites. And I thought he nailed that ending. And I've really come up on his Wonder Woman book. Like, after the first few issues, I'm really digging his Wonder Woman run right now, minus all the Absolute Power tie-in. So I think that Tom King is somebody who I think listens to criticism to his detriment and to his benefit, right? He used to be known as a very sparse writer with not a lot of dialogue and kind of a lyrical quality to his writing. And I think he overcompensated and became very verbose and bogged down. Like, this exact same team did that Supergirl book that you and Nick, Eric, are all over that book's nutsack. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't get it. I just don't get it at all. But, the art in this is beautiful. The story is working for me. The one thing that I don't care about, I don't care about this framing device, like about these tapes and what happens. Like, come on, get rid of that. Who cares? I am so intrigued with Helen's story, the governess and her grandfather. It's just blowing me away. And in the latest issue, where she just goes ham and goes and kills that guardian witch or whatever.
Yeah, the crone. Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah, dude. So I don't know. I'm liking it. My relationship with Tom King has been very problematic, I guess. Very up and down, very inconsistent. But I do love this book. I think it's absolutely amazing. But like you said, Damien, we'll see what happens. There's no way this is 6. I feel like this should be a 12, but it's rare for even a Dark Horse book to get to 6 issues now. Most of them are 4 issues.
4.
Yeah. So I'm curious how much they're actually giving them, because there's no way that this can wrap up in 1 issue. Oh, Danger Street, Raphael. Danger Street sucked. Danger Street sucked so bad. And his Rorschach book was very interesting, and then it fell completely off in the last 4 or 5 issues for me. But I do like
he manages to get great artistic partners for every single one of his projects, regardless of the quality that he puts out. Because I would agree with you that on Danger Street, it was very lackluster. And same thing with Rorschach. I think Rorschach had high points and low points. But man, every single time he's working with Mitch Gerrits, he's working with Jorge Fornes, he's working with Bill Quisevely. Like, how does a person like that, if it's so topsy-turvy, manage to get those creative partners and get that buy-in? Like, I can't quite square that circle.
That's one of the talents of being a comic book writer, I guess, is attaching yourself to the right artists.
Like Mark Miller, I can understand his pull. He can get any artist he wants to.
Has he ever been with a bad artist? I don't think so. I mean,
I don't think so.
He's always got really top-notch artists.
Gabriel Walta. I can't think of one.
From the get-go, he's been with amazing artists, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of got that Bendis syndrome, where Bendis was doing that for a while, where they would pair Bendis up with anybody who was like one of the top artists of the industry. And it helps elevate, because comics are not just about the script. It's not just about the story. It's a visual medium, right?
Right.
And the art is very, very important.
I remember hearing Scott Snyder talking about when he started on Batman, he before the New 52, he requested Francavilla and was it Jock or whoever, and he requested those artists because he knew that, so he managed to talk the editorial into taking his advice, and I think that helped make his career early on, the having those artists work with him.
Yeah, for sure. And when you find the right artist to work with, like I think Snyder works very well with Greg Capullo. Yes. He works very well with Francisco Francavilla. That was great stuff. His work with Jock, that initial Detective Comics run that he did, I guess it's collected as the Black Mirror. Right. Really great stuff, right? And so Scott's got a new one coming out called Absolute Batman. And I know a lot of people have already been talking about that one. And I've read the first issue. And he's got Nick Dragata on the artwork. Now, Nick Dragata is one of my favorite artists. He was the artist of East of West. He did, what was the Ghost Cage? Ghost Cage was the book he did on his own.
Ghost Cage was awesome.
I know.
Was that the silent one?
What's that?
Was that one silent?
No, it wasn't silent.
I'm confusing it with something else. Never mind.
Yeah, but that one is so freaking good. I got to meet him at a Heroes Con. And I was like, dude, I cannot tell if your screen tone is digital because it looks very organic. He goes, oh, the first issue... And then the first few pages of issue 2, that's real screen tone. Then I realized, oh, I'm never going to get this book done. So then he switched to digital. But there's some people like Bruno Redondo, great artist. He's got a great striking sense of composition and stuff, but he uses digital screen tone. And an overuse of digital screen tone really annoys me, really gets to me. But Nick is able to do it in a very organic kind of way. Right. But Absolute Batman is one of these books where there are parts of it that are awesome and very rock star, and there are parts of it that are really dumb as shit, right? But Nick Dragata is drawing it, so it gives it this like quality where I'm like, I think I like the book. I don't know. I'm very interested to see what the conversation is going to be about next month after we have all gotten to read Absolute Batman #1, because that's going to be interesting. This is gonna be
after we're all in.
Yeah, after we're all in. All in starts next week, y'all. So.
We have to read them. We're all in.
Yeah.
I guess that's the theme.
Absolutely. All right. Damien, what's your next pick?
Well, I'm going to go with Conan. A cliche for me. Conan number 15, which is the wrap up of this Frost Giant's Daughter kind of series. And this issue, they actually adopt the Frost Giant's Daughter short story by Robert E. Howard. And I didn't think they could add anything to it because it's considered one of the greatest Conan stories ever. But I really like what Jim Zub did with it and how he enriched it. What he built up before leading into this didn't seem so great to me. But now that I read where he gets the actual meat of the story, I really like how he's sort of shifted what the sort of goddess or daughter of the god Ymir, I can't remember her name, but what everything means about what she does and how she's trying to, in her way, trying to have her own independence. But in the end, she can't because she needs to be rescued from Conan. It's funny, though, I've read several other really great versions of this, and the art compared to Cary Nord and compared to Barry Windsor Smith, it's a little hard to say this art is the best version of the story. But I thought that it's very fine art. But I thought it's the writing that really made this one sort of transcend its material and bring something new to a story I thought that nothing new could be brought to. So I'm super impressed by Jim Zub. I already have a very high opinion of him, and now it's gotten even a little higher. Did you guys both read it? Did you read it, Robbie?
Of course I read it. I love this book. And by the way, if you never see Damien here again, it's because we got demonetized because he showed a bunch of boobies all of a sudden.
Oh. It's art.
Yeah. No, I'm loving it. So I know you're a big Conan fan from back in the day, right?
Yes.
From the Roy Thomas era, right? Roy Thomas, co-creator of Conan, if you didn't know.
Co-creator of Conan in comics.
No, co-creator of Conan, period. And Wolverine and Jesus and Moses.
Right. Sorry.
But so when I was a kid, and I've told this story many times, but when I was a kid and I was reading like John Byrne's Superman comics, and I was reading Fantastic Four, I was reading X-Men with John Romita Jr. on the artwork. I was really loving that stuff. I was reading the Ron Frenz, Tom DeFalco era of Amazing Spider-Man, really digging that stuff. But I would go into my stepdad's closet to pull out his Savage Sword of Conan books when they weren't there. And I would read those, and I loved it. I've been chasing that high ever since. Every time a new Conan book comes, and it always eventually lets me down. Even the Kurt Busiek, Gary Nord stuff from Dark Horse, I was into it, but then I fell out of it, right?
Yeah.
When Jason Aaron first started it over at Marvel, I was into it, then I fell out of it, right? Jim Zub has kept me so locked in to Conan for over a year now, and across multiple books. They're also killing it with this Black Stone crossover. Issue 2 comes out next week, and I've read it already because Jim sends me copies.
Nice.
It's because I work at a comic shop. Anyway, so I've already read it, and in issue 2 brings it all together. Like all the people, or like all those people across time and space, they all get brought together in issue number 2, and it works so freaking well. And I love that he's doing the Frost Giant's daughter thing here, but he did more in the beginning, right? Like to set up what was going to come.
Gave it a new context.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just love that issue where she's just sitting there watching, just like thirsting over Conan, man. Just like, I gotta meet this dude. I mean, we've all been there. Oh, I gotta meet.
Yeah, we've definitely been there.
But I'm loving it. I really like it when De La Torre is doing the artwork.
Yes.
And Doug Braithwaite has never been my favorite artist. I remember, and this all stems from when I read Earth X for the first time. And you got this amazing Alex Ross concept art that's been building up to, and you open it up, and I'm like, oh man. Or actually not, Doug didn't do that. I think John Paul Leon did that. Maybe I'm thinking of Universe X or one of the follow-ups, right? But I remember Doug Braithwaite being like, all right, it's fine. No, his Conan book stuff works. It works 100%. Yeah. And even in the second arc of Jim Zub's Conan, I remember being disappointed. It's not the Bashima Light guy, right? Like, right. Oh man, this sucks. But no, it pulls me right in. And I loved this story. I loved this issue. I'm loving Conan so much. Titan's really doing it. And I think they're doing it so well because they're just letting Jim Zub cook. They're just letting him do what he wants to do and not have to get in the middle. And that's the theme of the night. Editors, your job is to get the fuck out of the way and just allow the great creators to create, and you're going to get great books. That's what you're going to get.
Right. I mean, because Zub was fine when he did Conan at Marvel, but he's just shooting up high in the sky with Titan. So they're clearly giving him much more creative reign here.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Eric? I know you're reading this stuff, right?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Conan is one of my favorite books month in and month out, and it just continues to be that trend over and over. But I really like the fact that it feels like Zub is making a conscious effort to not just play the hits. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just out here doing what Conan's done over and over. And I think I'm not an expert, but I believe that this is the first time that we've gotten a story that's kind of really been fleshed out and told. The Frost Giant's Daughter is probably arguably the biggest Conan story that people know, right? So I think that the way that he framed the story, and the way, like Robbie, like what you were saying, how we kind of like got a grander scope of it. We got like a big chunk of what was happening previously. Heck, the previous issue was all from her perspective as well, where she was just watching the battle take place. I love how they laid that out and how they played it out. And Braithwaite, man, yeah, like, I mean, I'm kind of the same train of thought. I really like Roberto Del Toro when he's on the book more so, but I do think that this is some of the best Braithwaite artwork that we've gotten. Like, I think the last book we got was ENIAC, when the whole bad idea thing was going on, and that was really good, but I don't think it was to this level either. So yeah, Jim Zub is just he's masterful work. I'm so glad he's going to be on this book for the next couple of years, because he's gonna have that time to build out those grand stories.
Yeah, Titan's really doubling down, and they expanded the contract. They expanded his contract, because initially I think it was just for 12 issues or for like a year or two or something like that. But he sent an email out to everybody saying like, nope, they re-upped, and we now have a further road ahead of us. And I couldn't be happier. Like 100%. This is bringing Conan back to the forefront of comics, right? And this is the most I've heard people excited about Conan in my adult life, period. Like 100%. Like, we're all talking about it. Even when Marvel was doing their stuff, like, there was some of us talking about it, some of us coming in and out. The Dark Horse stuff was decent, but like, this gives me the vibe and the feel. And the crazy thing is, Jim Zub's Conan the Barbarian or the Blackstone stuff, none of that is my favorite Conan stuff right now. It's the Savage Sword book for some reason that I'm eating that up. I love it, especially since they figured out how to print it after the first issue.
Yeah,
right?
The first issue was rough, but yeah, now it's great. And did I hear that they're at first Savage Sword was just planned for 6 issues, and now it's going to be 12?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And hopefully they'll then re-up after that.
Oh,
they would be
it's the perfect way to do Conan.
Yeah. What they need to do now is they're doing the omnibus collections of the old school stuff. They need to do like newsstandy editions of that stuff where the colors can really come through and pop a little bit more, like they did back in the day, without like, you know how it is when they reprint comics from back in the day and the colors get too gaudy and too over the top. Yeah. I would love to see some actual like solid reproductions of that early Conan work, because that's early Barry Windsor Smith stuff, when he was still trying to do a little bit of Kirby. But I think, Damien, you're the expert here, but that's kind of where you see Barry Windsor Smith go from that Marvel style into his own style.
Exactly. Right? In about 22 issues, you see him become Barry Windsor Smith. He starts off as a talented Jack Kirby hack, and then develops this style in 2 years. That is amazing.
And now
which is so wild. At something called Red Nails, which was in the black and white ones. But
okay, Stu was here, and then he disappeared. So Stu, come back. Vampire we see problems. You. Yeah, Stu's like, they're talking about Conan. I'm out. All right, I'll go ahead with my round 2 pick then, while we're waiting on Stu to show back up. Stu really got a good look at the thumbnail, and then he was like, no, screw you, Robbie. And he just looked out. That's probably what happened. Oh, wait. What's up, Stu?
Oh, you got me. Trying to sneak back in unnoticed. How we doing tonight?
How you doing, buddy? Good to see you here,
man. Yeah. I've enjoyed the show, or what I've been able to hear. I'm excited to talk about Harley Quinn.
Any thoughts on any of the books we've discussed so far, Stu?
So many great ones, man. I haven't read them all, but yeah, Conan's been fantastic. 2024 again, the year that I became a Conan fan. That and Savage Sword. I love what Damien had to say about hate. I'm in the same boat. I wasn't hate like on the original hate, but like I've really been enjoying like getting familiar with Peter Bagge and getting familiar with his aesthetic and like his body of work. So that's been a lot of fun. What else am I missing? Hell of Windhorn has been incredible. I do like the printing error double treat that we got with back-to-back issues, more or less. But yeah, man, I just love opening up that book every time we get a new issue, and it's that pin-up art on the first page that I just love that they're sticking to that, man. That's one of the things I look forward to most, in particular about like that book every week. So yeah, great picks all around. Feral, I haven't read. Sorry.
Oh, you need to read Feral. Feral's great. By the way, spoilers. Patch is becoming a zombie. It's a great jumping on point. Back to the Peter Bagge talk real quick. If anybody's getting into Peter Bagge because of Hate Revisited and you want to check out some of his other work, Need Stuff, the original Hate for sure, there is a wild time at Marvel where they were allowing a lot of independent creators to come in and do work, like Mike Allred and Pete Milligan on X-Force. What a world we lived in at that time. Mike Allred, Pete Milligan doing X-Force, and it was wild and cool stuff, right? But around that same time, they were doing this like Startling Stories brand or something, and they had like Brian Azzarello and Richard Corbin do a Hulk story, where that famous bit where Mark Ruffalo is talking about, I put a gun in my mouth and the other guy spit out the bullet, right? That's from that book, right? Oh, wow. It's called Startling Stories Banner, right? It's just called Banner, but that's really good stuff. At that same time, they did a one-shot Spider-Man comic they let Peter Bagge do called the Megalomaniacal Spider-Man. If you can get a hold of that.
Yeah, that sounds too cool.
It's way awesome. It's way freaking awesome. Stu, why don't you tell us one of your picks? All right.
Now, I've been in and out on the show. Has anybody done Tin Can Society #1 yet?
Nope.
Dang.
Okay. That's one of my definitely top 2 of the month.
Great choice.
Incredibly strong first issue. I'm not familiar with Peter Warren as a creator. I know he's a screenwriter, but I thought the writing was incredibly tight. So well paced and so well structured throughout the book. Art from Mobili, I believe, was incredibly consistent throughout. I love how they set it up. Like, we're getting flashbacks through this murder investigation, and we're also meeting this group of friends, but they're giving, like, he was just able to pull together these really emotionally powerful moments in just a matter of a few panels with these conversations with each of these friends. And we're able to like get some background on the friends, learn, what kind of happened to this friend group and who became estranged. And, I don't know, things have kind of fallen apart as they become adults. And I just loved also the design, like Mobili's design for this handicap superhero. I thought it was just different. It was regal. It was just super cool. And this was a book, like the books I love the most are the ones that I haven't heard of, not on my radar at all, and just come out of the blue and completely blow me away. This was absolutely one of those. So Tin Can Society #1 is my #1 of the month for sure.
I had a lot of fun with that book. It took me by surprise. I wasn't really looking forward to it. It kind of came out on a week, and I was reading it and I was like, man, this is actually really good. The characterization of all the characters was really working for me. Yeah. And I didn't even pick up on the Iron Man significance until I was watching Damien's latest video the other day, when I was like, oh, it is kind of like a little bit of an Iron Man story. But I was picking up a lot of It vibes, right? Like Stephen King's It,
nice.
Where it's like something that happens to these kids, and then now it's years later and they have to like get back together to like figure it out and finally end this thing. And basically, I guess with the whole point of It basically being like, we have to take care of the sins of our youth as adults because that stuff ain't going away, right? And I thought it was a really, really great first issue. I'm excited to see. That was another one that had like some kind of printing error, right? Helena Windhorn had like Dawn Runner's. So Helena Windhorn had like the Dawn Runner like title card on it, right? So they had to do that. But I think Tin Can Society, it was the cover Like it wasn't the cover they wanted or
Oh.
something like that. So they pulled it and they're shipping it back out. So a lot of shops, when we get these emails, we just ignore it. Cause I went out and looked at Tin Can Society. I was like, I've already sold through most of them. Oh, well. And Lunar's like, well, we're just going to send you, replacements. So I'm like, cool. I get double the copies to sell because this is a book that you can sell because people will enjoy this one. What do you think about it, Eric?
Dude, I think this was the most surprising issue that's come out this entire month. It blew me away. And if I could break kayfabe here for just 1 second, it's wonderful talking to you guys, but I gotta talk to somebody real quick here. James Tynan, lean in a little bit. This is how you write an ensemble cast. This is how you do it. Okay?
Talk to him, dude.
Kasia, Greg, Andy, Val. I remember these names. I know these people. Why? Because I like what they're doing, right? I enjoy the story that's being told. All right, I'm back now. I'm sorry, guys. I just had to say that real quick here.
Did you just wait till the next issue of Tin Can Society that's going to introduce a whole new cast of characters?
Oh, yeah. Someone's going to walk
another
through
10.
Like,
it's the artist and the other artist and the physician/artist.
The Tin Can Society on the lake, buddy.
The aluminum can society. Oh, but I loved it. I love everything that they do with these characters. They made me care about them so much so immediately. And Robbie, it's so funny that you said it because when I reviewed the book, I said Stand By Me, right? Both Stephen King novels. And I think he does what Stephen King does well. He makes you care about these people. He makes them endearing. He just writes good characters. And clearly Peter Warren has a knack for that too, because man, he did it just like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Damien, what are you thinking?
I think it's a fantastic choice. And after I did my video where I reviewed 33 books, this one stayed in my mind. So I like it even more than I did initially. It's grown in my head, and the high quality of the art sort of has seeped into me. At first, when I took a first quick look at it, I thought, oh, this art's just illustrations, but it really did have more impact. And so I'm definitely excited to see where it's going to go next. I'm not sure if it is going to be like it or if it's more of a murder mystery. Because I don't want to say too much, but one of the characters is a cop and she thinks there's a mystery to be solved here.
Oh, yeah. And one of them probably did it, right?
Right.
That's the idea.
Sure.
That's
And
right.
that's the other part. I like the little guilt, the little clues that they give you, and you start to build your suspicitions already.
And
it's like if when Stanley kills himself, they're like, no, one of us did it. Dun dun dun.
Yeah. But yeah, it does have that Stephen King vibe, which I didn't think of. And although he is like Iron Man, because Iron Man has a heart problem and he solves it with his technology, and I forget the name of what he has, but he solves it with technology. But it's other than that, it's completely different than Iron Man.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a really good comic, and it may be a sleeper hit kind of thing.
Oh, a sleepy hit.
Oh, trademark that one.
I'm gonna start saying that the sleepy pick of the week. And by the way, Sleepy, I really appreciate you being here, and I love your videos. But is it crazy to do reviews of 33 comics in one video? Come on, that's just the normal, right? And then we all do. We all do that, right?
It's not smart. Some of us do it very well, but
Stu, you're killing it already out of the gate, man. You got a second pick because we're on round 2 right now, man. What you got?
Yeah, man. I hate to do the same title 2 months in a row, but I gotta go. Zatana, bring down the house, number 4, dude. I just love this book so much, and the art in this, Javier Rodriguez is just doing such a killer job. This. This is Constantine in here. We're going back through they jet off to Paris and take a moment and kind of get some respite. But the centerfold here it's just gorgeous, man. The colors in it, the art is just freaking fantastic. It's such a joy to dive into and read every issue. And I just love, I would never think, in the same vein as I'd never think that I would be, pulling two Conan titles a month. I'd never thought I would be this into a Zatana mini, but it's been fantastic, dude. And I love the story they're wielding here. I love how they built on, her and Constantine's relationship here, but it didn't take over the comic. And we, it goes back to her father at the end, and we get more revelations there. But I just love all these cast of characters, whether it's like the casters or the bunny chick, or like, the I guess the caster soldier. I forget what her name is. Like their go-getter, their hitter girl. But I just like the colors, the pastels, the page design. I said a lot of this last month, but man, like issue after issue, it's just been such a blast to read and so much fun. And again, a book I never would have thought I'd be picking up, but I just can't recommend this one enough. I strongly, we're almost at the end here. We got one more issue to go. So if you're not in yet, hopefully they do a nice, gorgeous hardcover Black Label edition of this, as they should, and wait for that to come out. I put it in like the same vein of like Cliff Chiang's Catwoman Lonely City, man. I think it's just one of those Black Label books that's so good that highlights a female character and really does something original and new with it. And I just can't recommend it enough. So I hate to do the same book 2 months in a row, but I had to. Zatana, Bring Down the House #4 is my second.
It's worth mentioning back to back just because
Right?
of Javi Rodriguez's artwork,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Like
It's
his
ridiculous.
artwork is amazing. He did the History of the Marvel Universe series like not too long ago. And that was kind of like, I think Mark Waid may have written it. I don't remember who wrote it, but
He did, yeah.
okay. And it was like just like this like bullshit retcon retelling of Marvel's history or whatever. But his artwork really elevated it, right? And I loved his composition. He's coloring it himself as well, I believe. And
Yes.
the colors are amazing and
So
such
crazy.
a striking visual book. And the story's great too. So I am a huge Zatana fan. We're all dudes that are into comics. So we all know that regardless of our participation or not, there's always this conversation that goes around. It's like, who's the hottest superhero out there? Who really gets you going, right? And this got asked to me over and over working the comic shop. And then I like gave myself I really thought about it one day, and I was like, well, I really love fishnets and top hats. So I love Zatana, right? And then ever since then, and then after that time, Paul Dini had a really great run on the character for a while, but that not a lot gets done with Zatana, right? She's usually a supporting character in a Batman book or in a Justice League book or something like that, or they're trying to make her more superhero-y with the stupid ass cape and all that kind of stuff. But man, ever since, especially I guess since they started doing Justice League Dark, they've been really trying to make Zatana work more for the comics. Zatana's a great character. There's a lot of depth and dimension there that can be explored and mined for stories that doesn't usually get done. And the writer, is this Tamaki or Tamaka? Who's the writer on this?
Yeah,
Tamaki.
Tamaki.
Riko Tamaki.
She's doing a great job with it. But what I loved about this issue in particular was that we know that there's a history between John Constantine and Zatara, right? We know that. And usually we see it and it's like this whole, oh, this douchebag, screw him, blah, blah, blah. They actually added a lot of charm and heart to their relationship here. And it actually gives us a different side of John Constantine. And I really, really liked how it wasn't just about a woman in her early days making a mistake, because that's usually how they go about it. There's actually like a connection and a synergy between these two. And I liked how that was portrayed. What do you think, E?
I love this issue. It's a great pick. Javier Rodriguez, like you guys have already said, like I don't know if I could say any more, but man, it's so interesting to see how the heavy hitters of the last maybe 10 years ish or so of Marvel have all just made this mass exodus over to DC. DC's page rate must be like pretty darn good because they've all left at this point. And I got to say, it's making me a DC fan at this point when I never really could have said that too much in my past. But yeah, Zatana is awesome. I don't have a big background with Mariko Tamaki, but she's an Eisner Award-winning author now at this point. This book is totally just blowing me away. I don't know. It's fantastic. The only thing I didn't really like about this issue in particular, Robbie, is kind of something that you were speaking to. Constantine, his attitude, it kind of took me out of it a little bit because I'm like, but is this the dude we know? Is this the guy that's always kind of like playing the game for himself? Like, it didn't feel that way. So I'm like, are you trying to are you trying to like, you know, really polish this character and make him a little bit nicer? I don't like that guy.
It makes me realize you just kind of exposed yourself as somebody who hasn't read enough Hellblazer, I think.
That could be fair.
Yeah, because that is the character, and a lot of people, it's kind of like Damien, right? Like Damien's kind of like this snot-nosed kid that nobody should like, that's kind of like always trying to prove that he's better than other people, but there's so much more to that character, right? Even if you go back to the earliest days of that character with Grant Morrison, there's so much more to that character, and so many people play him as one note, right? So many people play John Constantine as a one-note character, but when you really dive into the work that was done by people like Jamie Delano and even Garth Ennis and Brian Azzarello and Warren Ellis, and Mike Carey, this is a dude who bad things happen because of his bad decisions, but he's not happy about it. This is a very tortured individual who really does have a heart of gold to the people that he wants in his life, but feels like he's poison and has to push them away. Right. So I like how they're playing a little bit more with that. And I love, because that's why I hate John in the DC universe, is because they always just play him like, oh, he's the smart ass, arrogant, Sting looking magician that shows up every so often. Right. To fuck with Swamp Thing or something like that. But no, I do get what you're saying. For a newbie, those are good thoughts.
For a new, hey, I had 3 out of 5 of those runs. I think I'm pretty good.
You got to warn us next time you start talking about Damien as a snot-nosed kid, like who you're talking about, bro. I was like, damn, Robbie's taking shots all over the place here.
I saw Damien look up a little bit.
I wiped my nose. I wiped my nose before the show.
What's going on?
Damien, are you reading Zatana?
Yes, and I loved it. So I think it's a great choice. It was in my stack of potential choices. And Rodriguez, it's a good script, and it's just an amazing artist, right? And that combination is so great. He also did Defenders Beyond, which had incredible art, but just gobbledygook as a script. But I still read it all because of his art. But now he's working with a good script, so it's just really, really pleasing. I do think there's a hint of other layers to what Constantine is up to. Like at the end, it's not totally clear, but he's just sort of smoking a cigarette and saying shit. It's like he knows something's going to go wrong, and he's not telling her about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love
this issue really focuses on that he's trying to protect her, right? He's trying to get her out of this situation, and he's been trying to do that.
Also be manipulating her in certain ways. It's not 100% clear. But I love the secret of the hat, and that that's all part of a plan he had all along. Yeah. Like the idea of him as even if he's being good to her, he is kind of this guy in the background who's playing extra levels of chess with everything that's going on that other people don't know about.
Yeah, I love that line from her. Hat? Yeah, I love that line. I love that line. She's like, I can't believe I never looked inside this.
Inside the hat.
And you don't want to look too much into a top hat. A ghoulie might pop out of that shit or something, man. You never know, man.
And I love the idea of you steal someone else's magic and then you become a monster. And that she never knew. She thinks she's the monster. But I don't want to spoil too much. But that whole revelation I thought was really, really good too.
The table.
Bearded is not here tonight because he's doing something way cooler than the rest of us. He's going to see Art Spiegelman interview Jeff Lemire or vice versa. Like,
wow,
yeah, that's a good excuse not to be here.
Let's say equally as cool. Equally as cool.
Almost.
We had to compete with that. That's why you had to bring snot-nosed Damien in, man. So.
What are you talking about?
All right, for my second pick, I'm going with Universal Monsters Frankenstein issue number 2. Michael Walsh is doing this, and I love the Universal Monsters. I loved what Tynan and Simmons did with Dracula, telling a story within the scenes of the Universal classic, right? Dracula, right? Not necessarily with the book, but with the movie. Then we had our buddies Ram and Dan do Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives, and it didn't really quite work for me. It is something I still want to reread and see how it works, like with all that expectation pulled away. But this is giving me what I want. And I think it's doing better than what they did with Creature. I think it's doing better than what they did with Dracula right now, where they're telling us an additional story that also weaves its way between the familiar scenes of the classic James Whale movie, right? So the basic premise of this book is that there is a kid who's there at the castle while all of this stuff is going on in the movie, and his father has died, and his father is one of the bodies that has been dug up by Dr. Frankenstein, and it's his hand, right? So it's his dad's hand or something that's on the Frankenstein monster. And that's what they set up in issue number 1. In issue number 2, they continue that story while also showing us, just like they did in Tynan and Simmons' Dracula, scenes within scenes of the original classic movie. And it works so well for me. And you get more character work done with Fritz in this issue than you've ever had done before, right? And a lot of people think it's Igor. That comes later, right? Fritz is the original, played by Dwight Frye, who played Renfield in the Dracula movie. He is such a great character actor from those days. And to see more like perspective from Fritz and what he's going through, but also how it ties in, it's amazing. It's so freaking good. And the art, oh my God, the art is so freaking good. I knew I liked Michael Walsh because of Silver Coin, but this is like Mignola level composition and pacing and storytelling. This is really great stuff. And who's the colorist? This is the best coloring, I think, in comics.
Tony Marie Griffin, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Marie Griffin.
Yeah.
The coloring is amazing. Those sickly pale greens, like striking right through, the way they're using the lightning, that big moment when the monster rises, and it's very Karloff-esque. It's just so freaking good. This is what a Universal Monsters comic should be, and they are killing it right now. Michael Walsh is the perfect artist for this. His story is great. I think this is absolutely phenomenal. What do you think, E?
Dude, I think this is a great pick. I just read this issue this morning, and I just wholeheartedly agree. Like the coloring, like you had mentioned, I love the fact that it's so high contrast, but it's so dreary, and I don't want to say washed out, but it's kind of like, it has like a little bit of a washed out feeling towards it as well. I think it's perfect for the story that's being told. And when you talk about the composition too, the scene where you see Dr. Frankenstein holding the brain, and the brain completely just lines up perfectly with the top of his head.
Oh my God.
Like the way that Michael Walsh is laying out these pages is just like, it's absolutely perfect. It's making me a fan of all this stuff. And I can't really say that I'm a Universal Monsters fan. Like, not that I'm a hater by any means, but I don't have like a deep love for it. This is making me kind of rethink that and say, maybe I'm going to sit down and maybe watch these movies and enjoy these comics one more time too, and really get a deeper knowledge of all this stuff.
I'll tell you this, man, the Universal Monster movies are amazing. They're so much fun, but the James Whale ones in particular are like next level for what everybody else was doing. Even Todd Browning's Dracula, or Carl Freund on The Mummy, and the Wolfman, even like James Whale did Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, The Invisible Man, and The Old Dark House. Like those 4 movies with this like weird mix of like comedy and horror, the macabre and the profane, with the idea, like Frankenstein was at the time considered a heretical kind of story, right? And there is one bit about Michael Walsh's scripting that bothers me, is twice now in 2 issues, we have a repeat of the moment when the monster comes alive and Frankenstein says, "Now I know what it feels like to be God."
Yeah.
That's a problem for me, because the actual line is, "In the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God." And that line got cut, right? And censored in a lot of countries and a lot of prints. So I really wish he would just, "In the name of God," just put that in there. And like that, I would be even more happy. But even though those are black and white movies, if James Whale was able to utilize color, I think he would probably be going for what they're doing in this book. And Eric, I would highly recommend that you watch Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein ASAP, dude. ASAP. And when you're done, go check out our review that we did on Horror Fest a couple years ago, where we talked about both movies in one show. James Whale is a director that does not get as much respect today as he should compared to other people that were directing films at that time, back in the 30s, right? James Whale is just a fantastic creator. He was a gay man in the 30s who was making these movies, who wound up making a deal where he could do whatever he wanted. And so you can even see the difference. Like, he did Frankenstein. Frankenstein's a big hit. He really didn't want to do a sequel, so he started doing other projects like The Old Dark House, which is so awesome, and The Invisible Man, which is super cool. But then when he did do The Bride of Frankenstein, he's like, okay, but I'm going to do whatever I want. And he was one of those early directors who, like, the studio was like, do whatever you want. You got it. Like, you got final cut. You can do it. We're not going to censor you anymore. And he proved his worthiness, right? 100%. And I adore those films. And I think that this book in particular is something that James Whale would be proud of. Damien, what do you think about Frankenstein? You reading it?
Yes. Fantastic the way he fits things between the original story. Because that could go terribly wrong, but it's going terribly right here. And fantastic, as you said, kind of Mignola level artwork. The blacks and the use of lighting and everything is amazing. And then amazing panel to panel storytelling. I feel like this would be a book you could give to anybody trying to become a comic book artist and say, study this closely. So I love
they'll
this.
quit. That's the problem. They'll quit. They'll be like,
problem,
okay,
yeah.
Never mind. I'm going to go back to the factory.
Yeah, but I don't want the wannabe comic book artist studying the average Marvel comic or something. I want them to study this. I want them to look at this and say, you're telling a story visually. You can read this without looking at the dialogue, and you'll know what's going on. You'll enjoy it. The dialogue makes it even better, but and that's it's very much an ideal, great comic book, in my opinion.
Heck yeah. Stu, any thoughts?
Yeah, love it. Echo everything you guys have said. I just that page with him putting the brain in, I just was gawking at that, reading it the other day. I just loved it so much, man. But I agree completely with what Damien said. I love my favorite part about it is how they weave the kid into this story and are able to create something new while also staying very true to the original. But you guys have said it already. I think like the greens and the yellows and like that pale muted color palette has been so central to the story and such a great device for them to use. And it's between this one and I'm in the same. I think I'm in the same boat as you, Robbie. I really didn't. What was it? The creature, the swamp creature, whatever.
Creature from the swamp creature. Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Creature from the Black Lagoon never landed. And of course, Martin Simmons' work on Dracula was just legendary, right? I thought it was good. Some of the best comic book art we've had in years.
That one page alone of Renfield with all the spiders and shit coming up on him. Oh my goodness. I
can't get Jason Sean Alexander's connecting covers of like Dracula biting that woman's neck across issues 1 and 2 out of my head still. So so many legendary moments from that. But this for me is right up there. And I think I like this story a little bit better than I did in Dracula. I think he's doing something really cool. I think, Dracula was a cool revamp, but I really like the new direction and the new twist he's added in this with the boy and his father being part of this creature. I think it's really interesting. Can't wait to see where that goes. But yeah,
hopefully this collaboration between Universal and Skybound continues, and if it does, like, we're probably a month or two away from hearing about the Wolfman project or something like that. But
it's got.
Yeah, I was going to ask you who's next up. Who's next up? Like, what else is left in the Universal?
You got to imagine. Well, you got Wolfman. You got the Invisible Man. You could play with that. You could play with the Phantom of the Opera, the Claude Rains one, if you wanted to. The Mummy, the original Mummy. It would be great to return to something like
that would be dope.
Not like. The Mummy had some sequels, but they weren't really sequels that are their own story with Karis instead of Imhotep, right? But like going back to that original Boris Karloff Mummy would be super cool. By the way, we're covering that for Horror Fest right on the Sunday before Halloween. That's one of my favorite Universal movies right there. But then have some balls, play around. Let's do Dracula's Daughter. Like Dracula's Daughter is one of the most criminally underappreciated Universal monster movies, in my opinion. Dracula's Daughter is amazing. Let's play with that, dude. Bride of Frankenstein, that's another one that's a no-brainer to do. So there's still some things they can do. Let's just hope they don't go too deep into it. Like, but at the same time, wouldn't y'all like to see Michael Walsh come back to do like Abbott and Costello meet the Bride of Frankenstein or something like that?
If it's Michael Walsh, yes.
It would be
I'm
so
in.
sick.
And the coloring once again is great. What's her name? Tony, right?
Tony,
Every
yeah,
time I
man.
read this, I'm like, you telling me this ain't Dave Stewart? I thought Dave Stewart was the only one who could use like 3 colors on a page and make it very striking and make it work so well. You know, that's why that dude's won so many eyes.
Tony Marie Griffin before.
Neither have I.
I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with her work at all. Like, I don't think she colored Silver Coin. Did she?
Did he color it himself?
I thought he did, but I could be wrong on that.
Well, he's got a great collaborator here that he should never let go of.
Yeah, no
100%.
kidding.
Totally.
And if Marvel calls and wants you to do Carnage, just say no.
And there's another thing about this issue too that I completely forgot, but you guys were talking about the sun kind of being the framing device. During my first read through of this, when we get to the point where we see kind of like the brutality of Fritz as he's trying to control the monster and he's just whacking at him, right? When we see the child looking at this, I'm thinking, oh, you're perceiving him seeing an adult acting in such a brutal way, but no, he's beating on the hand of the monster, which is the hand of his father.
hand.
So it's like
it's
levels upon levels of
and you can like he's almost crying. You can see like his eyes welling up. It's so good. So good.
Beautiful stuff.
And it's working for somebody that's not even watched Frankenstein, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I can't remember. In the original movie, does Fritz drop a brain and then pick up the brain of a psycho, or did they?
He does,
that?
yeah.
Oh, okay, that's
yeah. He like picks up the one thing, he gets scared or something, like that skeleton pops up and he like gets scared and drops it, and then he picks up the other one. And I think the name of the brain is Abby Normal, right? Isn't that the?
I think you might be right.
Like the Young Frankenstein reference there. All right, that's the one they should do. I mean, Michael Walsh doing Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, that would be so good.
All right, I think we got time to do one more quick round before we get into rapid fire. What do y'all think?
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right, Eric, kick us off.
All right, I'm going to steal this one because someone's going to take it otherwise here. Let's talk The Moon is Following Us, #1 by Daniel Warren Johnson and Riley Rossmo. The hits just keep on coming. Like with Daniel Warren Johnson, I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of a creator within the last maybe 5 to 10 years that has the same like rise to fame that he has as a writer / artist. Every single story, this one including, is so heartfelt and like just pulls on your heartstrings so much. And it's not like he's a one-trick pony. Like when I say that, he's not telling the same story every single time. It's always from a different, unique perspective. This one kind of being from a parental viewpoint. And it's just so beautiful. And when I first saw that he wasn't going to be drawing this series, I was bummed. I was like, all right, so maybe it's not going to be like another Murder Falcon. Maybe it's not going to be another Do a Power Bomb. With one issue in, I think this has the chance to be even grander than either one of those stories. And it may be because of the time in my life where I'm at and the fact that I am a parent that it's hitting so hard. But man, like everything was just beautiful. Colors were gorgeous. The artwork was fantastic and so fitting for the story that they were telling as they kind of bounced back and forth between this fantastical world and the real world that we're in. It was just a beautiful ride to be on, and I can't wait to cry my eyes out at the future issues that are going to be coming out.
You know that's happening, right? I mean,
it's gonna happen.
Murder Falcon, Do a Power Bomb.
Jesus.
Daniel Warren Johnson. We all talk about how amazing his artwork is, how kinetic, how dynamic it is. It's super cool. His Transformers revitalization, so amazing. And I remember watching he does those Friday night streams, right? Friday with D-Dubs or whatever.
Yep.
And I remember him doing this cover and I was like, is this what you're doing that's taking you away from Transformers, bruh? What's wrong with you, right? But we really got to start thinking about Daniel Warren Johnson, not just as an artist, but as a writer, because he's been killing it ever. Even something like Wonder Woman Dead Earth had so much like poignancy, right? It had so much profound resonance at times. I loved this first issue. And you do get Daniel Warren Johnson artwork, and it's going to be cool to see him kind of mix that in with Riley Rossmo. And this is the best utilization of Riley Rossmo's style since Greenwake, which is like 15, 20 years ago or something at this point, right? This dude consistently gets misplaced in books like Harley Quinn or
that
something
Robin
like
book,
that, or
yeah.
Robin, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like the people that are going to read a Harley Quinn book or a Robin book that's not what you're going for with this style. Here, it absolutely slaps. Daniel Warren Johnson you're going to see more writing from him in the future, I'm pretty certain, and it's all going to be great. This dude is a great writer and a very humble dude. If you meet him, very, very humble. Damien, you got any thoughts?
Riley Rossmo. I remember reading indie books by him years ago, and then sort of having him kind of fade away into minor DC projects. But he is just doing a fantastic job, along with the fantastic coloring from Spicer here. Just constantly inventing clever ways to do action and fantasy kind of scenes. I'm not finding exactly what I want to show, but anyway, so yeah, I'm just super impressed by him and excited for him that he gets to be on such a good project and really show what he can do. It just kind of adds to my feeling lately that there are so many, this is like a mini golden age of comic book art in indie comics. Everybody, or not everybody, but a huge number of artists are lifting the level of their work. And this is a fantastic prime example of that, because Riley Rossmo at DC he just didn't fit or something. Yeah. I have to say that I'm not excited by we're doing the virtual fantasy world and then we're in the real world kind of thing. So for me, the jury is not out yet on whether that's going to work for me completely or not.
Yeah,
it's a book I like. I'm definitely
going to
been
done to death lately, right?
Yeah, and inside and outside of comics, it's just a time-worn kind of. The last 20 years, I've seen so many things where you're inside a video game in one way or another. But maybe they will surprise me. And the art and the fun of it makes it worth it anyway. And there are a little more stakes, right? It's not just a group of friends who get trapped in a game together like in Die, right? At least there's also the family aspect that really gets to Eric there, which might, start getting to me too. We'll see.
Yeah. I wish Oni Press for their EC books would like lean more into like the Michael Walshes and the Riley Rossmos and stuff like that. Like,
yes,
that right. Like those, like those are the Johnny Craigs and the Al Feldsteins and the Harvey Kurtzmans of today, in my opinion. And I think that that's what's been lacking and why we've never really talked about those books here on the Best Comics of the Month stream. So there you go. Yeah. Stu, what are you thinking about the moon is following us? Weird title, though. I didn't see no moon following anybody.
No, very true. Yeah. But I love this one, man. I echo everything you said about Daniel Warren Johnson. I met him at Heroes. The guy, he was our first meet of any creator at Heroes that first morning, and the guy was just exceptional, man. He was just exceptional, and it really just raised the bar of like what that con was going to be like, and really what you hoped other creator experiences would be like. But he was just so kind with his time and didn't charge us money, and I just think he's if not my favorite, one of my top couple doing it these days. Whether it's writing or art, I feel like it's equally as strong. Whatever direction he decides to go in, and this one was a pleasant surprise because, like you said, Robbie, I don't have any reference with Rossmo besides like really that Robin book and how everybody was
Harley Quinn. You're big Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Pick of the week.
Yeah, you're sorry about that. But yeah, like, and everybody was up in arms about that book, so it's great to see him. Like Damien said, on a book where he's really flexing his muscles and gets to do his thing. Man, I gotta say, when I got to those last couple of pages and I got those Murder Falcon vibes, I got those Beta Ray vibes. Like, oh man, we're getting to that human story, and I just want to sit down and ask this guy one time. So many of his stories seem to be centered around some type of terminal illness. I know loss has had such a profound impact on his life. You can see it in his artwork. And the way he translates it to the page is so beautiful. So yeah, seeing those last couple of pages, not only are we going to get some Daniel Warren art, but it's going to be one of those stories he does so well with, that raw, emotional human element and people trying to huddle together, get through some darkness. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's his wheelhouse, man. And seeing that's where this issue is headed, because I was kind of trying to figure out where things were going and get my bearings, but man, by the end of it, I was all in. And I love the idea of him doing a little bit of art and somebody else handling the main duties. I think that's a great way to kind of keep him in the game both ways, writing and artwork. So yeah, fantastic.
Well,
number one.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of artists first and then writers later on kind of take that path too. And I think that we get to the point where, I shouldn't say we, but like they get to the point where, you know, like they have so many stories to tell that feasibly there's no possible way that they could take on both duties at the same time. And like you can't just keep those kind of like locked away. Like it's better to get them out there, because then we get fantastic books like this.
Yeah.
Well, and also
Yeah.
you make more money as a writer because you can do more projects.
I mean, if you want to take the greedy route, but that's fine.
No, he's
But
even
you can't
bringing
sell
that.
your original art that way.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
his original artwork sells. It really
Yeah.
does.
So it may be I think it may be more what Eric's saying, that it's a choice of getting more stories out, but maybe it's money. I don't know.
I was just making a joke, Damien.
Okay.
I was
taking it
just-
serious.
No, because when I asked him, like when I saw him, what his and he said something like, Hasbro couldn't pay me enough money to kind of like keep me away from doing my own thing and telling the stories I wanted to tell. So I think this is one of those, and I think there's some other ones in the future. But yeah, I just like that. You know, I'm sure they were offering ridiculous sums of money for him to stay on that book or, you know, do a second arc or whatever. I just love that he broke off and chose this direction.
Yeah, if anybody's got money, it's got to be Hasbro, because they're overcharging people out of the fucking ass for Transformer toys right now. So
That doesn't make
Trust
them
me.
generous, though.
it does not make them generous.
No,
No.
very
There's a
true.
reason why
Very
there's a
true.
reason why they're the big dogs, I guess, because they're
The back matter is interesting because he makes it very clear it's very much a collaboration between the two artists.
Mhm.
And I think that also is why it's such a strong book.
yeah. And I think somebody in the chat mentioned, I think it was Gore Grimm talking
There's a
about how
couple-
his daughter
yeah.
has a lot to do with the book or something like that, right?
Or yeah, Eddie said it was like a flashback, and you know, she said it one day, and that all clicked or something like that. But
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he's even
like-
like I love how you're like he's bringing the emotion to it, right? And he even does that with Transformers. He's
Yeah.
turned
Yeah.
Transformers into a story about like war and its effect on soldiers and how that affects their lives, and how that like when they come to a place like Earth filled with organic life and they see like the world being like, and just if you think about Transformers, right? It's all about Energon, right? And getting the energy out of the earth and screw the life, right? But when Optimus Prime steps on that deer, right? And you're just like, oh man, like he's even elevating Transformers way beyond its where it's ever been, in my opinion. No offense to Michael Bay, but the Michael Bay Transformers movies suck. Anyway, that's a good pick, Eric. What about you, Damien? What's another pick for you?
Which to choose? Monsters, which I wouldn't have known about without your show.
same. Yeah, thanks.
That's
Robbie.
my boy, man. I gotta point this out to Mark, man.
I had to go to 3 or 4 shops to find a copy of this. But the shop that had it had a lot of copies with a lot of different covers. It was really hard to choose a cover. And you know, I like the old monster movies, and so this is a new way to play with it, threading sort of what happened in the past to some new threat, some new I don't know what to call it, some new rising of the dark, you might say, that's coming. And so this first issue, we get a bunch of different threads that I'm pretty confident are going to come together well, just from how well they're written. But of course, I haven't, you know, that's a hope.
I had a
but
great
I'm-
conversation with Mark this last weekend where he's like, man, how am I supposed to tie all this shit together?
Now, I don't know, is this character from any movie, or did he make that up himself?
No, that's his own character, like
Yeah.
the hunter, the stalker, or something like that. I don't
right.
remember
Like
his
the
name.
red
Design
eyes,
is great.
Zorro. Yeah, he's so cool.
But I could definitely imagine him from some low budget movie.
I don't think he thought that Van Helsing was toyetic enough. So
Oh, there you go. He's going to make $1
Fair
million off
enough.
of the
Yeah.
toys. Hook him up with Hasbro. And I like the way the older story is in black and white, and it had a really the mini story here had a really nice twist to it, and the the heroes have to make quite the sacrifice for their plan to work out. So I just thought it was cleverly written and amazing art. So yeah, and the promise of the werewolf at the end.
Yeah.
So, and this promises to be like the dream monster movie that I always wanted as a kid, bringing all of these things together. So hopefully it will live up to that.
Yeah, I think you'll like the ride as it goes along. It's going to be an 8-issue series, I believe, and everybody should keep collecting it just because it's my buddy Mark. But also, you may see some surprises in the coming months. I can't say any more than that. But did y'all notice my name in the back? By the way, that was dope.
I didn't bother looking for that.
Yeah, neither did I.
It's in the back at the very bottom in the special thanks, but whatever. I've known Mark for over 20 years.
Oh, there it is. You weren't lying.
Yep, there's my name. I'm telling you. Stu, did you check this one out?
Yeah, man. On the Kickstarter, thanks to you. I can't find my copies around my room right now because it's a mess, but I got the sticker and the card that he sent with the two books. I got 2 different covers. I agree with Damian, man. It was hard to choose the covers. I was definitely like stressing over that for a while when I was back in the campaign. But yeah, it was it was. I felt like the story could have been a little bit clearer, but at the same time, the art was great. And I love the way he frames a lot of his panels and some of the shots we got, man. And his style is so sick. It reminds me of like Alex Ross meets like Joe Jusko meets, I don't know, what's like an old horror painter.
Bob Larkin, maybe.
There you go. Yeah. Like it's absolutely Bob Larkin for sure. But I just, yeah, it's so great to see the success of this. I know he said he got passed on by, I'll let you tell this, Robbie. I'm sure you know the story better than I. But like several publishers passed on this, and it seems like it's been an enormous success both with the Kickstarter and the King Spot Publishing. So I'm happy to see him rocking and rolling. And I think it's a great issue 1, dude. I can't wait to see where it goes from here. So shout out to Mark. And again, Robbie, I wouldn't have known about it without you campaigning tirelessly for your friends. So shout out.
Well, be sure to tell Mark that. So yeah, he was passed on by Dark Horse, by Image, which he does work for Image. He does those Spawn covers. There's a new Spawn cover coming out this week for King Spawn that he's doing, right? And there's more exciting news that we're going to be hearing in the future with Mark Spears working with some other publishers. But I'm so proud of my dude for betting on himself, doing his own thing. He loves Universal Monsters. He loves G.I. Joe as well. So don't be surprised if there's a G.I. Joe element that gets introduced into the series at some point. But I'm just so proud of him. And Damien, I was listening to your thoughts when you were doing your review. So he is a traditional artist, right? And then takes his layouts, puts them on in digital, and then he paints digitally over that, right? So there is some digital trickery that he's using,
right?
But it is all laid out by hand.
It's not from photographs, though. I sort of rethought it, but looking at it some more later, and decided. But it's so some of the scenes are so photographic that it confused me.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying this because he's my boy, right? Because he's not paying me. He did give me he did give me a copy of like a 200 copies only, like printed, like a variant cover or whatever. But he did that just because he's my homie. He showed up at the shop the day it dropped. He's going to be at my shop this Saturday doing a signing event. But what I'm so impressed by, aside from him just betting on himself and doing his own thing, is that he is anybody else who does this kind of thing, like digital painting over like a framework that they put in or whatever, could look very stiff, very stagnant, and very stale. But his stuff doesn't feel like that to me, which even with some of his cover work, you might think that might be what it would be like, right? but it's not. And I had a great conversation with him. I was like, hey man, so like you can't put the bolts on Frankenstein's monster's neck, right? And he's like, yeah, and I can't do a widow's peak on Dracula. Like he had to learn the hard way all these things he couldn't do that Universal owned. So that was cool.
Wow.
Eric, did you read this one?
No, unfortunately, my shop got shorted on this one, so I wasn't able to jump on it. But I do plan on it because I've seen plenty of the artwork. In fact, when the Kickstarter came out, I was kicking myself for not being able to back it at that time. But the artwork is just fantastic, especially, dude, the homage covers that came out for these issues were just like absolutely fantastic.
So many good ones. Yeah, man.
Dude, there's so many different good ones that were out there.
There
like
really
the Hulk,
was.
Yeah, there was the Hulk Wolverine issue. There was the Days of Future Past homage and things like that. So I will get to it, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
All right, just to address some chat conversation in the chat and conversations I've seen in my comments. Mark doesn't pay me a dime to promote his book. If a homie of mine does a book, I'm going to talk about it. But if I didn't like it, I'd be like, yo, my homie's got a book. I'm super proud, man. Good job. And I would leave it alone. I would leave it alone there, man. Trust me. I made it through 12 issues of Ron V on Carnage. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, man. I can't be bought. My opinions are not bought. If Mark didn't make a good comic, I would just be like, hey, my buddy's book is out. Check it out. I wouldn't say anything other than that, probably. Because if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all, I guess, right? Anyway, where are we at then? That was Damien's pick. Damien, that's awesome. Thank you for mentioning Mark. Now I'm not going to be accused of being paid by Mark for this show, at least. So that's great.
I'm
Stu, what's another pick?
Very well known to be picky and complain about things. So
yes, me too.
All right. Let's go to the top of the month, man. Ultimates number 4. This has been my favorite.
Eric picked
Oh, God damn it, you son of a bitch. I missed that. All right. Great book, though. Great book.
You guys are great minds thinking alike.
There we go.
Exactly. There you go. Let me go down my list here. All right. I'll go Lobo cancellation special, man. Kyle Starks and Kyle Hotz. This book was such a blast. So much fun. A hilarious story. I love Kyle Starks books. I'm laughing throughout. And the artwork was great. It took me back to the 90s. It was everything I could have wanted from the story. Like he's, trying to help these feeble creatures, get his spouse back and right or wrong or whatever. But I just love the situations he gets put in through. It was a generous volume. I got it around here somewhere, but a lot of pages, man, and the artwork was so fantastic and awesome throughout. And I just had so much fun reading that book. Kyle Stark's books always make me laugh hysterically. I always have a ball. Like it's always something new and fun. And I hope he doesn't get stuck in that funny thing. Cause like when you talk to him at Heroes, he's, apparently he gets pitched that a lot and he doesn't want to be only known for funny books, but he does it so well. I think you look at books like this and Where Monsters Lie, he does the macabre. He makes the macabre hilarious and in such a striking fashion. So this one, I had high hopes for this book. It checked every box off, and I got to recommend the Lobo cancellation special, Kyle Starks and Kyle Hotz, as my number 3. So since Robbie's out, did you read this one, brother?
Man, all right. I'm gonna have to break kayfabe twice in one single episode here. So hold on, let me just zoom in here real quick. Let me talk real nice and close here to Stu. We talked this morning, dude, and I told you I didn't read this, and you put me on blast on a live show like this, dude. You
Sorry,
jerk! Bro. I can't believe you would do this to me. God, I'm done. I'm done breaking kayfabe now. But no, I didn't read this yet, and you knew that, and you still did this to me. You jerk. I'll go back and read it.
It's further push off the cliff. How about you, Robbie? You read Lobo cancellation special?
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's my number 3,
I loved the Lobo cancellation special, dude.
So good.
It was so much fun, dude. Kyle Starks, we've talked about him on this channel. It was always one of Manny's favorites to bring up, right?
Yeah, he's hilarious.
And Kyle Starks is able to tell a great story that has a humorous twist to it, like a humor bent to it, right? And Kyle Hotz, I'm a huge fan of Kyle Hotz's artwork, and Lobo was the perfect book for both of these creators. I had so much fun with this book, and that's the thing, fun. Lobo books should be fun, and they should have great artwork too. I mean, we're talking about the legacy of Keith Giffen and Simon Bisley,
Right.
right? You know what I'm
Yep.
talking about? Like, and Kyle are really nailing that. And this was a great book. The only sad thing to me is it's just a one-shot special and not the start
Thanks,
of
bro.
an ongoing series, man. I loved it, dude.
Yeah, it was a great ride. Damien, how about you? Did you get to this one?
I didn't, and I just heard Lobo, and I didn't even look at it. Now that I know who the creators are, I'm eager to it. I'm a big Kyle Starks fan too.
Yeah.
I loved his, especially his, what was it called? The Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton was one of my favorite.
I've never read that
funny
one. I
books
got to
to
check
read.
that out.
I think that was an Image book. It's about like an action movie star and all the people who were his sidekicks in different movies with him and how they all hated him. But it's a hilarious comic.
And then he gets murdered and they all team up to solve the murder, even though they don't like the guy. It's great. I mentioned it on my weekly comic book review every single month, Stu, just so you know.
And I love Kyle Holtz. So I haven't seen his artwork in quite a long time. Actually.
Yeah, it was crazy because I was just looking at, somebody posted an old Venom. What was it? Venom, like, what was it called? But it was Venom with like a rocket launcher and a machine gun. It was like late 90s Kyle Hotz, and I was like, man, that guy has come a long way just seeing that. He's this week.
And Carnage Mind Bomb too, right?
I'm not sure, bro.
I think he did Carnage Mind Bomb. He did a book from Top Cow back in the early 2000s with Paul Jenkins called The Agency that I really liked too. I've always loved his artwork though.
Yeah,
super cool stuff.
Fantastic.
And I think Kyle Starks also is currently doing Barfly.
Yeah,
from Dark Horse.
Yes.
So
the minor threat.
Really
yeah.
So
he's great,
I'm glad I will pick up that Lobo now that I know who's on it.
Yeah, it's
and co-creator of the Hood. Thank you, Simpleton. Co-creator of the Hood with Brian K. Vaughan. He did the initial Hood series. Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the early Marvel Max days.
Man, the glory
good stuff.
Marvel Max, bring that back. They
I
should bring
know.
that back.
They are. Get Fury is a Marvel Max book.
I mean, okay.
They do
should
Marvel
bring it
Max
back
whenever
in
Garth
earnest.
Ennis wants to do something for them. They're
Yeah.
like, sure, we'll bring out the old Marvel
Sure,
Max.
Garth.
branding.
Yeah.
It's like, otherwise this is that red band nonsense. It's like, get out of here with that.
Oh,
shit.
fuck that
Dude.
red band shit, dude. We need to have a whole stream just bitching about that. I wanted to
so
show this
bad.
off to y'all. This is a print I got from my buddy Mark Spears that he signed for me.
Damn.
Where he's able to actually do
That's
the Boris,
nice.
in his print, he's able to use the Boris Karloff likeness. But isn't that dope? That's in my living room right there. So.
That's sick, dude. Hell
Obviously
yeah.
not right now. I pulled it off the wall. All right. Third pick for me. Oh man, I gotta think about this. You did Lobo.
Robbie, it's calling. It's calling.
yeah. I know.
I'm not going to talk about it because Damien didn't like it. This
I know
month.
that's why I didn't pick it too.
Um,
Well, you guys can argue with me.
I figured. No, here's
You
one
can
I
say,
do want to
"You
highlight.
Stupid old man, you need to learn how to read modern comic."
Wait, Darcy didn't send you a check? Like, what's going on?
Right? Like-
You
You got to
shill.
send them an invoice. That's what you got to do. If you don't send them an invoice, they won't pay it. No, I want to put a little bit of shine on a Vault comic, and I haven't done that in a long time, right? Vault was one of my favorite publishers for a while, and then they kind of dipped down for me, right? And the Vault projects come and go, whatever. Goobers issue number 1. I loved Goobers issue number 1. The best Cody Ziegler comic I've ever read. Ryan Lee on the artwork, the artist of Mountainhead. I met him at a Heroes Con with John Lees and Alex Cormack was there too. We all had a great time together just hanging out. But like Goobers was B movie, C-list movie, cheesy goodness. If you love things like cheaper versions of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, this is what's going on. And so you got the Manchurian came out this month, right? I didn't really dig on it so much, but I love what Pornsak is doing as a concept with the Horizon Project or the Horizon Experiment, right? Where he's taking these common tropes and common ideas and blending them in with a marginalized like audience or something, right? So like in his first issue, the Manchurian was a Chinese James Bond. It didn't necessarily work for me, but I really appreciate that. One of the things he said that was coming up was an Evil Dead for black nerds, right? This is a cheesy like drive-in 60s movie with a black cast. And that's not something that we typically get. So you get the perspective from these characters, and they're all different characters. They're all very fleshed out. None of them are stereotypical. I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. I thought it was ridiculous. And I thought Ryan's artwork was absolutely amazing. It's about an alien spore or something that comes in, gets into a person, and it pops out. There's Alien, there's The Thing, all these ideas, all these tropes. And what do you get in those movies? Like one black dude roller skating around saying something smart ass till he dies. You know what I'm saying? A guy in a Friday the 13th movie taking a shit, singing, getting fucking killed because of some damn enchiladas. You know what I'm saying? That's what you get. Here, you actually have agency. You actually have a perspective. You actually have a dynamic, and it works for me. And I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a fan of Cody Ziegler, though I think he does a pretty decent job on Miles Morales when he has a great artist attached to him and he's not having to be forced to tie into whatever 3 events Marvel's throwing around that month. But I thought this book was awesome and my favorite Vault comic in a long time. Did you check it out?
No, man. And if I'm being completely honest, I feel like I've lost a lot of respect and faith in Vault recently, which is why I didn't pick this up. Even Barbaric, which I've still hung on to. In fact, it's my last kind of Vault book that I've hung on to. Even that one feels like it's waning on me. And even the quality of that book feels like, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on a diatribe about a completely separate book, but I just feel like something's happening with Vault where I just don't have the faith and trust in them that I once did have, because they were like really one of the premier small press publishers that I absolutely loved for like a good 2 years. And they fell from grace so dramatically. So I skipped this one.
Yeah. Well, maybe you might want to check it out, but I understand 100% what you're talking about. It was like once white and like, will we ever get Radio Apocalypse or Picture of Everything Else finished? Who knows?
Man, Radio Apocalypse. Damn,
Dan
I
and
forgot
Rom
about
don't
that.
know. I'll tell you that, man.
I think Rom has officially come out and said that's not coming back.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, though. They're really going to bring us back with that Def Leppard comic they got coming up on the horizon, all right? I'm sure. So,
Sure.
Damien, did you check that one out? Goobers?
I didn't even know of its existence. And I did not see it at any of my shops. And because like Eric, I've kind of given up on Vault. So I used to, every week, look what Vault comics are coming out.
Yeah.
That's another video idea. What happened to Vault? That's a great idea.
Well, it comes from a place of sadness too, because they put out some of, like, honest to God, my favorite books that, from a couple
They
of years
really
back.
They really were the place, like any new Vault comic, I wanted to check it out for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they kind of fell completely off the face of the earth. And then they came back kind of less good.
Yeah, I agree.
Less
Stu?
consistent.
I have not read it.
See?
I'm in the same boat. I think Unnatural Order is the last Vault book I picked up.
See, and this is the problem with Vault right now, is that they finally released a really good book. Nobody checked it out. Why? Because Vault has lost. Like, there was a time where Vault felt like the new Vertigo, right?
Yeah.
Where like every creator was like really giving it their all. They were doing interesting stories. And like, I mean, they're responsible for one of my favorite ongoing series over the last 10 years, Wasted Space, right? What happened to that Vault? All those people move on, right? They've had their issues, and I don't know. That's a good thing. Oh man, I almost feel bad to do a video called What Happened to Vault, but I think we should. I think we should do that video.
There's enough meat on the bone, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I first learned of Dennis's work, right? Maxwell's Demons. That's where I first read Rom V's stuff with The Savage Shores.
Wow.
That's where I got introduced to Alex Packnadel with Friendo, right? Like Dan Waters, Deep Roots, like the White Noise crew who are dominating comics right now.
Yeah.
Like they all started there, right? And Adrian and Damien used to be like, not you, Damien, the other Damien that works for Vault. But
this
like
is the third Damien now.
they were absolutely like commissioning kings of getting like great creators that were unknown to really do some great work. And then where are they at now? Yeah, the Nasty was the last one I really liked. Spilio, you're right about that. I did like John Lee's Nasty.
John Lee's, yeah.
Yeah, John Lee's on the Nasty. I thought the art could have been better on that one. But all right, it's time for rapid fire. Eric, kick us off.
All right. Since I already flashed it on the screen here, I will start with Precious Metal because it is a confusing issue, but I think it's a worthwhile issue. I think that the artwork is stupendous. It's when I talked about some of the artwork on previous issues that I talked about today, nothing holds a candle to Ian Bertram's artwork in this series. I think it's absolutely stupendous. The tie-in that this gets to Little Bird and kind of how we start to see the connection between the two series.
Yep.
Loved that. Public Domain will make you laugh your ass off. I love the way that he plays with the tropes of not just comic books themselves, but the comic book industry and how that plays against people like us who talk about comics and review comics and the people that make the comics. The interconnectivity between all that stuff is absolutely just so humorous. I love to see what Chip is doing on this book. Helena Windhorn, number 4. Number 5 was so tragic. It was so tragic because this was so joyful and so adventurous and so worthwhile to see Helen become a character who cared about what came next, basically. You know, she wasn't the person that was just like locked in her room smoking away and drinking away. She had something that she yearned for the first time. This was a joyful issue, which just led, like I said, so beautifully into issue number 5. And I will leave things. It's been a while since I've talked about this. Kaya, best book on stands month over
Cover
month.
the
I
month
love
for
this.
me, man. Cover the month.
Dude.
That's how you do color.
Yes. This was really a fearful issue for
Art
me.
was so
Like
great.
we're starting to see some of the things that we got the preview from. I think it was like maybe 3-4 issues previous when we kind of got that look ahead. Now we're starting to see maybe why some of that stuff is coming into play, and we're starting to see some of the dark roads that they're going to be walking down here. So Kaya, yeah, that's my last book for the roundup here.
You know, I've been hesitating, even though I keep saying it, like that this might be the next Bone, right?
Oh, let's say
I've solidified it this week, right? I was like, this is like the Bone of this generation, right?
Yeah.
A semi all ages comic that is just so good, telling a long form story. Everything we bitch for Marvel and DC for not really doing, especially Marvel, Wes is doing it at Kaya right now, like telling a long form story that's building on only momentum from word of mouth. It's not the greatest seller out there, but it's not stopping him from making a great comic every single month. And it doesn't seem like he takes those skip months or those skip years or skip decades like Saga does. You know what I'm saying? So
no
pretty
kidding.
good stuff.
Well, and you're right. It's a fantastic all issues book, but it never writes down to a younger reader, because my son reads this along with me too, and it's one of his favorite stories as well. So kudos to Wes Craig.
You should
How
check out
old's
Lady
your
Death
son,
for your
Eric?
son next time.
He's 10 years old.
10. Okay, just curious.
Yeah, you should check out Lady Death with your son. I
Oh, yeah,
saw somebody
totally.
trying to throw some Lady Death love out there.
That might
Damien,
be
rapid fire. What
when
you
I
got?
saw Lady Death. So
Paranoid Gardens. If you miss old school Grant Morrison comics, this is like Grant Morrison hasn't been for quite a while, but this is fantastic. Imitation Grant Morrison by Gerard Way. Fantastic art by Chris Weston. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I'm loving it so far. Stand Still. It's just incredible, sort of playing with the big wide screen, as I think one of you guys said last week or last month. Someone on this show recommended it. There's some incredible widescreen stuff going on in issue 2. So I think it's a really interesting, fun comic. Ultra Mega, wildly imaginative, a little confusing. Hopefully,
a little
together. I think it's been 2 years, which is kind of a problem, but it's good at this point. And Grendel. I think Matt Wagner's kind of, for a while, didn't interest me as much, but this new Grendel series called Devil's Crucible, which is going to be 12 issues overall, so far with 3 issues has really gripped me. Exciting, fun sci-fi. And Geiger, fantastic silent or mostly silent issue about the dogs. So really love that. Great comic book storytelling.
loved that issue of Geiger. That might be my favorite
So
issue
good.
so far from any Ghost Machine book.
Yes.
Like, loved it. That was so good. And I had the chat help me out one day. We're just going to refer to it as dog, right? Because it's too, because I was like, is it dog or dogs? I don't know. It only like I was so confused. I'm just so glad they didn't kill that damn dog. Oh my God. And to have a whole issue from like the fact that the dog has his own adventure, right? And like goes and meets like that giant gorilla and all that kind of shit in the zoo, like the post-apocalyptic nuclear zoo. Loved it so much. Stu, what you got for rapid fire?
All right. So many great books mentioned. I've whittled my list down to just a couple. Rook Exodus #5, another great issue and a stellar series. I like the whole thing of him, like Rook really kind of getting in touch with the birds and figuring things out. And you know, like the whole thing, the whole issue kind of being a fever dream, and he's kind of reset moving forward. You know, he's really in touch with his duties as the warden, and I can't wait to see where that goes. Fabic's artwork, issue to issue, is just so great, man. So consistent. Been such a great series from Ghost Machine. Boy Wonder #5, Junie Boss, like the conclusion to his wonderful Robin series it was just amazing, man. Written and drawn by him. I can't recommend it enough. Another Black Label book that's sure to come out in a great hardcover. Y'all make sure you pick it up. The artwork was exceptional. I think it's one of the best Robin stories we've had in years. And I love the examination of the Bat family that we got in it, and you know how we see all those characters and different lights. I love the angle they gave his mother Talia. But like he said at one point, like the whole storybook aesthetic to it was the bow on top, man. It was just such a brilliant story from and it was like Rare Flavors. We got to the end of issue #4. You know, I felt like they could have ended it there, but the way they wrapped it all up with Batman coming back into the picture and all that was just great, man. So Boy Wonder, I highly recommend that series just as a whole now that it's over, from Junie Ba and DC Black Label. Minor Arcana, Jeff Lemire. I think this book is gonna, you know, build upon itself, and I can't wait to see this world. And just love Lemire, his writing, his artwork. So it's great to see him back with another story that's going to be extensive, it looks like, and have a lot of characters and a lot of chapters. And I just can't wait to see how that plays out. So like it was a solid first chapter, not as good as some of the other #1s I read this month, but regardless, I'm just happy to see him with the series he's going to be writing and drawing. Just two more. Ain't No Grave #5, the conclusion to that stellar series. I loved it. Jorge Corona really just put his foot off in that series, man. That dude is establishing himself as a name to really fear and look out for in 2024. I feel like between this and Transformers, but that final issue really, I felt like that series could have gone either way depending on how that final issue landed, but it ended with such force and conviction, and I just love the conversations between her and between Ryder, I guess her name is, and Death, and that, and how it all came to a head there at the end. I thought it was brilliant. So that was a really strong ending for me, and a great conclusion to the series that really was a cherry on top. And then finally, Dark Knights of Steel All Winter #3, dude. I've loved this series. It's been so much fun, from like the artwork and the color palette to the story they're telling. I'm a huge Deathstroke fan, and his whole family, and the secret of this kid bringing color to the world. But like, I love the Dark Knights of Steel world, and I really I hope to see more from it. I think they really have something there with the Game of Thrones meets the DC universe. I think there's the backup in it with Tom Taylor and Riccardo Federici is fantastic artwork. And a good little story. But yeah, that book has been such a pleasant little surprise from DC. So yeah, Dark Knights of Steel All Winter #3. And that's it for my rapid fire.
All right.
Nice
Picks all the way around. For me, rapid fire, Conan Battle of the Blackstone, issue #1. I love the way that Jim Zub balances all the different characters. And just wait, issue #2 brings that up a little bit more. Plastic Man No More #1. I had a lot of fun with that book. I really, really did. I think it got into the character of Plastic Man, Eel O'Brien. It was tying in a little bit to some of the Mark Waid, Alex Ross Kingdom Come stuff with his offspring, right? His son. I loved that stuff. I thought that was a really solid book. One of my favorites from Christopher Cantwell at the Big Two, Transformers number 12. The end of the second arc, big, explosive, and y'all, Daniel Warren Johnson's first 6 issues of Transformers felt very grounded, and I thought that we were taking this very slow, deliberate approach to introducing a lot of these crazy concepts. And then we get number 12, which just is the ham to the fucking wall, dude. I loved it so much. Speaking of which, Void Rivals number 12. What an awesome book Void Rivals has become for me. Got to give some Marvel a little bit of love. Wolverine number 1 really surprised me. Really did.
I love it, dude. Cyber's back. Like seeing Cyber back, I lost my shit.
I loved seeing Cyber back. Somebody at the shop was like, dude, they just introduced this character, the Iraqi mutant, like Solemn or whatever. He's got adamantium skin. Why didn't they just use him? I was like, because Cyber was first. Cyber was first, y'all.
Exactly.
And us 90s kids, we love Cyber. But I thought that book was good. Department of Truth number 25. Martin Simmons. Enough said. Destro number 4. Dan Waters doing Destro. The book is awesome. So pumped for what's coming up in the G.I. Joe universe. Dick Tracy number 5. Just to tide over Spilio, I do love what Alex Segura and Michael Morisi are doing with Dick Tracy, making a grounded and brutal Dick Tracy comic book, but not shying away from the cartoonish nature of what Dick Tracy is, especially with the villains, right? And Batman, Long Halloween, Last Halloween, annoying title, should just be Batman the Last Halloween. But Eduardo Risso on the artwork there killed it. And a big tribute to Tim Sale. And I thought that was a really great start to another Batman Halloween mystery. So there's your rapid fire. That's what's happening. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much for checking out the show. There are links to all of these fine gentlemen's channels in the description down below. If somebody, as we wrap up here, I see a blue wrench out there. Castle, John, Spilio, it's up to you. Throw out the links to these channels. 9-panel grid, what you got coming up?
Ooh, new comic book reviews dropping every single Monday morning. CBCA finalist voting is still ongoing. Consider me for best new channel and best unknown channel, even though I feel very known amongst these gentlemen here. Also, consider best reviews. Who else has got stuff going on here? Hall of Fame voting, I believe, for Damien down here as well. Put your votes in. I don't care who you vote for, but get your votes in. It's very, very important. And other stuff on the horizon, the very near horizon. But I'll let Stu talk about that kind of stuff.
Okay, but before Stu talks about that, Damien, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. You're my dog. I haven't seen you in a few months. We haven't really talked. I think that I sent you my first text message ever today, and I don't know why, man. We need to chat more often. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Tell us about your channel. What's coming up?
I'm not sure. Whenever I get around to it, I'll do some more comic book reviews. And I'm always planning to do, maybe I'll finally do it, videos showing off art books. So comic book art books. Like I have a huge collection of those, not just the artisan editions and all that, but all kinds of things. So I'm hoping to do that. Start that up maybe bi-weekly soon.
Cool. Just don't set yourself to like a bi-weekly thing. Just do it whenever you feel like it, man.
Everything I do is when I
And by the way, I'm pretty sure that soon me, Eric, and Damien, I'm going to corral them into doing a review on this with me. We'll do like a nice panel review about this book. The new Charles Burns is out. 62 if you watch on the replay. Yeah, I picked it up. Of course I picked it up. But finding the time to read it. Every time we buy a book, we think we're also buying the time to read it and the space to store it. So,
man, that is so true. Wow. Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for being here. You vampire.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Tardy. It's always a joy to hang out with you gentlemen. Go vote for E. Go vote for Sleepy, a legend in this game. Dude, I love when you come out with videos where it's 33 books you're covering. So don't stop. Like you have great opinions and your videos are very conversational and easy to listen to. So keep doing what you're doing, dude. Yeah, absolutely. But it's been a blast sharing the screen with you gentlemen. Yeah, man, this Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Ink and Inks Ink and Insights, my new show with E, is premiering. We're going to be going through our favorites of the week before, Marvel, DC, indie shows, covers of the week, artists and writers that we really love that week, and then looking at the week ahead. But y'all come check us out. We're going to be going back and forth between E and I's channel on 9-Panel Grid, but we'll be kicking off on Dr. Doom's Fan Club next Wednesday, the 2nd at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So y'all come hang out with us. And again, thank you guys for having me. It's always a blast and an honor.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. As for me, I'm Rockin Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers. You're watching this channel. You know who I am. I love how Stu was like, go vote for Damien and Eric.
Yeah, fuck you, Robbie. ...
He just knows you're going to win them all anyway.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm not. PCP's nominated for 7 categories, so go nominate to your pleasure. But do me a favor. Vote for Two Gun Pedro for Blue Wrench.
Yes.
Vote for Fable for Community Builder because he really deserves that. And go help our buddy Jelani and Brooks out with Go Figure Reviews and just try to get them close to Gem Mint Collectibles for best toy and statue review. That would be great. But go vote for whoever you want to. You got till October 19th to vote for that. We're in the midst of Horror Fest, y'all. You know what we're doing. The bloodiest, most transgressive Horror Fest lineup of all time. And it really does continue Sunday for a special bonus blood show over at Blood Splatter Chatter. We're talking about Necromantic. I watched this for the first time today, and I got some thoughts, man. I was trying to eat a chili dog while watching this movie, man. And I can usually do that. I can usually watch the gnarliest stuff and eat whatever I want. Bruh, this movie made me sick to my stomach in some parts, man.
Oh,
So
wow.
ready for
Yeah,
that
wait.
one. And then Monday night, we're talking about Wes Craven's first film, The Last House on the Left, here on PCP Movie Night. We love you. Thank you so much. Go check out all of these people. Vote for everybody that you want to for the CBC Awards. But vote for me for most comedic, because I would really like to beat Sticky Goose and Comic Journey. That would be great. Anyway, love y'all. We're dipping out.